Hello once more, yes. Anyway, now one thing I'm sure a lot of people are probably going to be quite annoyed at me with this sort of whole review comparison thing, is that I seem to have such a huge issue. Like I said, I'm coming onto the system, but I seem to have such a huge issue with layout. And why though? Now, my thing for layout is it goes like so. Basically, especially with character sheets and with books, if you need to find something quickly, then you need, well, let me try that again. You need to find things quickly simply to help keep your head in the game, and also if the layout's good, your eye knows exactly where to look. Basically, it helps to maintain the whole flow. And this can be important in a role-playing game. So when I tell you that I think that the D&D 4th actual official sheets are designed pieces of over-inked turd, then I hope you realise I'm not just being a snidey bastard about it. I actually really do mean it, because I find the sheets frankly ugly to look at. Yeah, I mean, now I've actually played with them quite a bit, I know where I'm looking for certain stats and things, but they just really... I feel like I'm smacking into a brick, well, maybe a custard wall, maybe not brick, but every time I look at it. I know this seems like a really trivial gripe, but it's important to me personally. I much prefer the layout of the 3rd edition sheets. However, those also have its flaws. I'm sorry, I don't actually have 2 comparison sheets to show off at the moment. Essentially, we should compare character sheets, and this will also take me into the subject of skills. Now, perhaps I should be doing a brief overview of how the 2 systems strike me first, but no, we'll save that important part until a bit later. Right, the sheets themselves, the 3rd edition sheet is actually quite similar to the 4th, essentially along the, as you look at it, yeah, along the top here, you've got your core attributes, all 6 of them: strength, dex, constitution, charisma, wisdom, and intelligence. I think not in that order, but I think those are the stats. But then down here, you've got a list of 30 or so skills. 30, if not more. Now that's ridiculous, and I will admit that is ridiculous. That's far too many skills to be going on with. However, this will bring me on to the point of D&D 3rds. So the amount of customization you can pull off with it is incredible. Some of it is game breaking. Some of it the DM will need to veto. However, the actual customized characters, when they're done properly, they won't be any more powerful. In fact, quite a lot of them are less powerful than your core classes if you just sort of straight leveled them. However, it allows you to roleplay characters and basically just have a lot of fun. D&D 4th, on the other hand, basically it's the same sort of system, but I think you've only got 14 skills maybe, if that. Basically, what do I mean by skills? Skills are what you roll. Basically, climb, swim, intimidation, taunt, tumble, i.e. to tumble out of, to dodge an attack or something like that, rope climb, move silently, hide, listen, spot, use magic device. I can keep going on because I'm listing 3.5 skills here. Now, 4th basically compacts the whole job lot down into 14, and a lot of people might go, well, hey, that must be a huge bonus. And no, it's not, because for my money, it compacts it too much. Basically, if they hit a balance between 3.5 and 4th, I would be happy. As it stands, the 3.5, the skills are more cluttered. There are more of them to actually keep hold of, but with a sensible DM who can go, well, a stealth check obviously includes move silently and hide, then, and little things like this, then, and also perception checks include, listen and spot, though maybe, it depends on your game style. If you don't want that, you can change it, but that's the golden rule of role-playing. You're there to have fun. There are no rules, there are only guidelines. That's important. A lot of people seem to forget this fact. So, with 3.5, however, the skills give you the variation to actually have roles within role-play. Intimidation, taunt, bribe, whatever. 4th, you don't get any of that, and it's a case of it sort of leaves you a bit stumped as what you might be rolling. Some people might just go, well, yes, there is sort of diplomacy and whatnot, but there's just not quite enough in 4th edition to create an investigative piece, to create to create an adventure outside of actually dungeon crawling and killing stuff. Yes, you can alter it and do all that sort of stuff. And yes, before anybody says, I know there are a crap load of really good third-party sheets for both games. So I'm just going off core stuff here, and this is my point. Core stuff, if you've not altered it, like I said, there's not, fourth, there are not enough skills to go off. In third, I think there are too many. You can't win either way sometimes. My other sort of, while I'm thinking about it, my other gripe with D&D as a whole is that compared to a lot of other systems, and this is what can slow it down and where mistakes can occur on the player's part, is I think it's also one of the most maths-heavy systems I think is actually out there. And for a great many people, that's no problem. But I certainly know that some of the mates of mine, whatnot, actually do have a problem with the whole thing. Because until you've actually got your head around the fact that, I'm sorry, any novice RPers looking at this, I'm probably going to be leaving you in the dust because I can't really, without actually going into the system in detail and how you create your character and how the stat modifiers work and all this sort of stuff, it's not easy. So. But yes, speaking of stat modifiers, until you understand how they work and how they relate to weapons, and then you sort of start adding stuff like power attack and all this sort of stuff on top. What do they mean by base attack damage, all this sort of stuff. It leaves a lot of new players who aren't particularly maths inclined really in the dust. So again, just a little gripe. However, like I said, that's my problems with the character sheets, and as I also said, what did I say? This is a very good point. It brought me on to something. Yeah, I've already been into skills regardless, but yes. I think this might actually constitute a new video while I regain my bearings and actually come back to that somewhat. Because, in all honesty, characters. Biggest point of all, the characters and the way it now handles items and potions. I'm sorry, I babbled for the last sort of half minute of this video. In fact, to be honest with you, because I don't use notes, then this is a bit hit and miss anyway. So I might even just redo this video. We shall see. We shall see. I might reiterate some of these points. Anyway, I'll leave it at that before I babble any further. Go and get myself a drink, and then I'll do what I think is probably the most important part, which is the difference between character building, customization, the fact that fourth has now less focus on magical items and potions and all that good stuff, which is, I think, the interesting stuff. So, I shall be right back with part 4 of the D&D Comparison. I'll catch you guys in a mo.